Hello, and welcome to the Weekly Scroll Podcast. My name is Ryan.
And I'm your favorite radioactive vampire.
And today we are joined by a very special guest, that is VIDITYA VOLETI. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good, actually. It's a nice day. It's a rainy day here in Brooklyn, but usually I'm not a fan of the rainy days, but it's like a chill vibe.
I like it.
Yeah, big fan of that.
Yeah.
I love the rain because it's as close as you're going to get to nighttime during the daytime, which is my preferred part of the day.
Vampire Coast.
Yeah, real Vampire Coast.
Yeah. It is, it's like 65 right now at 10 o'clock in the morning here on the West Coast and sunny. So this is why I'm on the West Coast. But yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. We've been a fan of yours for quite a long time. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about today, but just in case anyone out there has the misfortune of not knowing who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself and what people might know you best for.
Yeah, well, like I said, my name is VIDITYA VOLETI. I use he, him pronouns. I am a game designer and a games educator also. I teach game design at a college. And yeah, that's what I love doing. I love making games and I love doing stuff. You probably know me from from here. You probably know me from Bloodbeam Badlands for the Weekly Skull Crew. And then I've also released games like Space Goblins, which have been in a bunch of bundles you probably own, and A Land Wants Magic, which is a game that's crowdfunding right now. You've probably heard of as the marketing push hopefully got to you. Yeah, I don't know. I make a lot of stuff. Space Between Stars is also a game of mine that I think is kind of a little out there for people to know with some recent announcements. So I make a lot of games, so you might know me from a few things. But yeah.
Yeah, sure. I have Space Goblins somewhere. I want to try to find it, but these giant gaps in my shelves are because I reorganized and it's just in piles in my living room. So I could not find the pile that contained your stuff. I was going to try to grab it, but yeah, like we said, been a fan of yours for a long time. We just before the stream started, I asked Hunter what episode we did Blood Mew Badlands on, and I forget now.
Episode 95.
95.
So about 100 episodes ago. Of our actual reviews, not of our everything else we do, but of the review, 100 reviews ago.
And we're a huge fan of Blood Mew Badlands, and I think that our biggest critique was that there wasn't enough and we wanted more.
Yeah.
And I feel like that we said we were going to talk about it. So before we get to A Land Wants Magic, we do want to talk about some other stuff getting up to that. So why don't we just start with that? When do we get some more Blood Mew Badlands? Is that a thing that you can talk about? Because I
can talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I can talk about it. I don't think it's hidden. I mean, our timeline's a little off, but like Blood Mew Badlands is being published by World Champ Game Co. out of match made in heaven for me, at least.
Yeah, of course.
I'm like, I would want nobody else to touch that game, frankly. And I think our timeline's a little off because we've both just been really busy with stuff and just trying to figure out what our 2025 looks like. But it's like in production. Like, I mean, like I'm still testing some new stuff with it. It needs like kind of a dev pass because I think the thing with Blood Mew Badlands is I really love it and I like writing for it. It's a game that I just get excited to make things for. And so I actually needed like a moment to be like, am I writing too much? Like, I actually think I need to like, and it's actually something that I think that y'all said that I really liked that kind of helped kind of hone it a bit was like, I know in like your review of it, you're like, this feels like it would be a really, like, it doesn't need to be a ton. It like a small zine or just like a smaller book that gets it to the table quick is like something that I remember y'all saying.
Sounds like us.
Like it just needs like a little bit more and good layout and something that's easy to just like get in your hand and get on the table. And I like remember really resonating with that, and I've had to keep that in my brain to be like, this can't be like I'm not making 150 pages of something or 200 pages of something. Like I want this to be. And Adam had very similar things where he was like, just make it like the base game, and then all of your other ideas you just release for fun, or you can do more of. Like, this doesn't need to be a one-off game. And so that's kind of where it's in development, is I'm like, is this a base game thing, or do I scrap it and like leave it for maybe later and release it on itch or something?
Yeah, I love that. Adam is very good at making appropriately sized games. So
yeah. The bloat is real, and Adam and Will Yobst is editing it, and so Will was also
cool.
like, yeah, you don't want this to get too big. And I'm like, yeah. Tell me where to stop, please.
Yeah. When you start thinking that, damn, maybe it's getting past like perfect bound and this might need to be like a hardback, I think maybe you're probably at the point where it's too much.
Yeah.
I mean, we've never like tangent. Welcome to the show. We've never been shy about being like, I don't fucking like big books. I just don't. I think it's pointless if you give me more stuff than I can possibly parse in a sitting. It's great to have like the entire toolkit for everything you'll ever need in the entire world, but also you could just give me the stuff that I need and then give me the other stuff later. Like I don't want all of it. I think, like, personally for me, I think Varn is one of the best produced games ever in the original zine format, and that's what I really love. Is like, you got Varn, you could play the hell out of it, and then the next 3 zines just made it bigger and better. And I'm always going to be a fan of just give me the zine that I need to play at the table, and then give me the stuff that I need aside from that. I don't want 400 pages at one time. It's not a table book at that point. But to each their own. Listen, if you want to make a 400-page book, we'll read it and have opinions about it. But you know,
well, I mean, it's also, it's about like, because I think I'm the same where it's I want to get something to the table as quick as possible, and so I read, hey, this is maybe like a year ago. I actually, for the first time, actually read Blades in the Dark start to end. Because I was running it for the first time, and so I was like, well, I should maybe actually know what this fucking game is, rather than just what people have told me in osmosis, and then, or like that I've played as a player. And there was a lot of stuff in there that I was like, this is really fascinating. I think this book could be 15% smaller. And that's like, I feel like I'm also pulling my punch a bit, where it should be, I think, like 20%.
There's definitely sections in that book that are in fact repeated. So
we'll be a little bit. I don't think we've been shy about our critique of. I think Blades is a great game and an awful book. I think you could chop about 150 pages out of it, and it would be the exact same fucking game. But you know, to each their own. We're not gonna harp on it too much. I love so much of what John Harper does. World of Dungeons is one of my favorite games of all time. So listen, we have a lot of friends that are Blades fans, so to each their own. It doesn't need to be that big. Neither does Apocalypse World. But
I also read Apocalypse World kind of cover to cover, and I do think that book is impeccable. There's some incredible fucking things in there. Took me, I think, a little too long to get through. Like, I'm like, I want to read this book cover to cover. I want it to also be quicker, you know.
But anyway, you also said you're a games educator. So how did that come about, and how what, I guess, does that entail?
Oh yeah, how did that come about was kind of interesting. I kind of stumbled into teaching. Is I think actually the accurate way to start is I taught, my first real teaching gig was at the Museum of the Moving Image, which is a museum in Queens here in New York. And it's like the museum in New York that's about like TV, film, like early film, video games is like kind of a big one. They're like, we are games museum also. It's the moving image, like that's kind of the and then they're all encompassing to what that means. And so Sharang Biswas, who's like another designer in the scene, Sharang's an incredible designer, has worked on a bunch of stuff. He was like the artist, or like, the artist in residence at the Museum of the Moving Image. And then I moved to New York, and then he was like, oh, you're in New York now, like, do you need work? And I'm like, yes. And then he goes, here, you know games, I'll introduce you. And then I ended up teaching there at their education department, and I taught after school. like for like middle schoolers. Like twice a
Cool.
week, I would teach after school programs and teach middle schoolers how to make like rudimentary games in like very rudimentary video game engines, like browser-based stuff and really small things, because they don't want to be diving into like a major engine. Some of them maybe want to, but they don't need to.
Yeah.
So that's really fun.
Baby
Like
steps.
and then I was like, wow, I actually really like teaching. Like I actually really enjoy teaching about games. I like talking about games, and I love explaining core concepts and getting people excited to make games. Um, I will say that I also am really bad at teaching kids because I can't wrangle. Like I'm not like an authority in the classroom, I feel. So there was often times where I would just lose an entire class because they would smell weakness, and then they would just start like they would like go off on some like tangent, or like start kind of like throwing little jokes and making fun of me and all these little things, and I'm just like, well, you've won. Like I literally can't be like, hey everybody, like I'd be like, can we maybe we get back on track, and they're like, no, and I'm like, okay. um
You gotta do the really
but
low clap once if you can hear me.
oh, I swear,
Clap
yeah,
twice if you can hear me. You
I
know?
needed to do that. I just had
It works
the
shockingly well, I'm telling you.
I really wish I did that. But then what happened? So I got some teaching experience, and then now, I guess like long story short, I then found a job at the Pratt Institute, which is a art college here in Brooklyn. And I'm teaching for their game design program. I'm still a part-time adjunct, but yeah, like that was an opportunity that came by because my old professor runs that department, and so was like, you have teaching experience and we need good teachers. So for the past like 2 years, I've been teaching at a college for undergrad, and I've been teaching like game basics, theory, like narrative design, level design. I'm teaching a board game class this semester, which is really nice. So it's been interesting. I'm teaching a lot of like video game theory stuff more so. So it's like I'm not like a RPG instructor,
Mm.
but it's like games in general have been what I teach and talk about. So the last 2 years have been like all I think about is games. Like I've been thinking I'm all I am is games. I'm games to the core, but like it's truly like my brain is just, oh, like what's the theory of this, or like where did this come from, or like academic sense now.
Yeah.
Also, which has been
Is
cool.
academia? How are you liking it?
Academia is weird. It took me, I think, honestly, I think until this month for me to accept the fact that I'm now a games academic. I think for some reason to me that felt so like I was like, no, I don't want to be a games academic. I'm not like that's not who I am. They're they're like pretentious and you know, they're like they don't make games, they talk about games and all these different things. I was like, oh no, I'm still like kind of I make zines and I make games all the time, and I don't want to be a games
I'm a
academic.
little art punk guy, you
I'm
know?
a little art punk guy. I'm not a college professor. But then, like, I will say, like, I think teaching in New York has been really nice. So games
Yeah.
academia and academia in general is fucked, like, truly.
Mm.
I mean, especially in New York. I mean, there's so many institutes and so many, like, you know, award-winning institutes and acclaimed places that, like, they can kind of just get away with paying us next to nothing.
Hmm.
Um, and there's so much administration, and I still really kind of dislike academic administration because it feels confusing and strange. And I'm like, I want to do what's good for my students, and they're like, we need to do what's good for the college. And I'm like, okay, I guess I literally have no power against you. So academia, not great, but games academics actually really cool. Like it's cool to be a part of this community and cool to like kind of go back to like truly, I mean, I make games and all I do is think about games, but now it's like I love being a teacher specifically because like these are kids that are excited to do this, and it's like, okay, cool, like that truly is very rewarding. Is
You
I'm
know, it's
like,
not. they're not just like completely burnt out, horribly depressed like indie game designers, like the entire space that we're all in. It's crazy.
Not yet.
Don't worry, we'll get them there. So
I will say they are incredibly depressed, burned out students, game students.
Yeah. Perfect.
And the games industry, as we all know, is on fire right now.
Fuck.
So
like it's not going great. So
like the world. So I have been like, it's been a lot of like, especially with my seniors, they're like, "What's the fucking point?" And I'm like, guys, I know, I get it. And there's nothing I can say to make you feel better. Like, we're just, jobs are weird right now. But the point
indie game studios are blowing up, though. You know,
they are, but they're not hiring.
Yeah.
Well, no one's hiring. This is, I mean, Gen Z is a very interesting, because I think these are going to be like the last Gen Zs, or is this Alpha now, whatever. These kids have such like a meme nihilism of knowing that the world is completely fucked by the time they get into it. So it's a great time for them to be alive, which is great. So question though, because you said you do, yeah. You said you do more games and specifically like teach RPG, and what are your thoughts on game design as a whole compared to like, let's say, indie game design? Because I feel like there is this, at least there's sections of and subsections of like this scene that we're in, I'll call it that are for some reason somehow like morally and like culturally opposed to the idea that we can borrow any kind of design from like video games or board games or anything, which I think is kind of fading out a little bit. But what is your thought on like just game design as a whole versus RPG design, and the way that you teach one versus the other, and or both together?
That's been like a real journey for me, is like really thinking about this, especially as I teach video game design and even board game design. It's like there are some core concepts, like narrative design is a really good example of this. Like, I teach a narrative design class every year, and it is really fun for me to be like, oh, this is like a core concept and interaction and why we do narrative design in a video game. And then to go, but that's not how role-playing games work. Like, role-playing games actually don't care about narrative design in the same way that video games do. And so I think there's like, I've been learning more and more like that there is a fundamental split that happens, or maybe like they come from different directions and then they kind of cross paths and intertwine. But RPG design and then like other game design from the other disciplines are, it's very unique. And the biggest uniqueness is the fact that like humans, us players, are such a big part of the actual systems in play, and like thinking about and having to design around the idea that like I won't, not even just I won't be there, because board games are like that, like I won't be there. Video games are I am there, because in the form of like code, like how you hard code something is as directly the designer's presence as possible. But then like also like board game culture is you play by the rules verbatim, because just when you sit down to play a board game, you are playing the system that the designer has created, and that's what it is. And you want to get good at it and you want to do this. And then like then it breaks because you're like, oh, these rules weren't written great, or there's ambiguity, and then we kind of add in the human element. But RPGs is all human element. Even though it is like, very much like you want to play by the system, or, however, if we want to get into that whole discourse, but you know what I mean? Like it's
matter. It's just that little conversation, that 30-year-old conversation, does system matter? Yeah.
But there's the game to a role-playing game, and like why we roll dice and when we roll dice and what all these different things mean. But then like, I don't know, there's just like so many, like RPGs have such a fundamentally, I think, different idea of where and why a system needs to be designed and placed than something like a video game or a board game. And so like in this greater, to go back to like the actual core question of this, like where do we bring, what can we learn from, and where do we bring, and how do I kind of feel about that, is I think there is really exciting, interesting things mechanically that you can take from other games disciplines. Like board games are great because they can show you a lot of different ways you can interact on a table with pieces
Very
and
true.
dice and cards and stuff. So it's like that's really cool. There's a oh my god, I'm burping. There's a lot of fun, interesting stuff there. Video games are great because you can learn a lot about like um how do you get players to do things and thematically and inspirationally, like what does art get you and where does all these different other elements come to you, and then also as just a springboard of just cool ideas. It's like I want to make, how does like a Mass Effect kind of squad system feel like, or those core kind of crunchy systems. I want to translate it, but I think you lose a lot when all you're trying to do is translate like one to another, because those gaps and the improv elements and like appreciating and understanding that the player is, if not half, like if at least half of the reason they're playing it more, uh is such a balancing act that I I don't know. I think I'm rambling, but like I think that's like where it's like interesting to find. Um, I'm just thinking about the person so much more as an RPG designer than I was before. Is I think where it's coming from.
I think one thing you said that is an interesting thing was that like people are part of the system. Like you can design, and I'm definitely a person who thinks like system matters as much as it needs to matter, but it matters. Like you should play the game as it's written before you decide to tweak it, just because you might not like it because you don't know how it's going to play until you do. Like know how to break it before you break it, kind of thing. But the thought that, or to remember that the players are part of the system and the things that they do are why you're doing it and part of the intent design into it, is important and can make it different than board games and whatnot. But that there's still so much you can bring in, like Source of Victory, friend of the show, big fan of theirs. They did cyclic dungeon design, where they took the level design from Unexplored and turned that into, and basically adapted that for tabletop role-playing games so that you can create like game loops in your system and stuff like that. Was a great adaptation, in my opinion, of a way to bring like video game design into the TTRPG space in a way that is really interesting, that can still allow the player to do a lot, because it's really just for level design. It's not about like the actual improv and stuff like that. But I don't know. It's cool to it's neat, and it makes me even more interested in like the things you're doing in the future, knowing that like you're not just doing TTRPG design, you're also doing so much other game design stuff. So really curious to see how those kind of ideas are going to translate into TTRPGs. And speaking of the other stuff you're working on, one of the reasons you're here on the show is above my head right now. It's A Land Once Magic. That's a current project you're working on.
Yeah.
Why don't you so what is A Land Once Magic?
So A Land Once Magic is a conversational post-fantasy world building game, where you build a world entirely from the ground up. It's fantasy in feel and nature, but the entire core conceit of the game is to get you to really break those preconceived notions of what a fantasy world is and make something that feels like fantasy but looks nothing like it. Is kind of the objective of it. And it is A Land Once Magic because magic is so intrinsically tied to the base of what your world is built off of. But something is happening to the magic. Like magic is changing, it's disappearing, it's evolving. And so how is that also shaking up the world as you build it?
And I mean, like you said, it's very conversational. I just pulled up the quick start onto the stream here. Gonna flow through that a little bit. I got very and you mentioned microscope before the thing started, when we randomly were talking about Kai Snap for no reason. It gave me a little bit of that kind of in the concepts of the world building a little bit. Was I can only assume that you've played it at some point. Was that in your mind at all when you were building this, or was that like an inspiration?
It is, and it was. Microscope, I really like Microscope. I'm a big Ben Robbins fan. I'm like that Ben Robbins, king of world builders, in my opinion. But I think microscope is really big for me. But more specifically, I really like, I'm sorry, did you say Street Magic by Caro Assertion, which is a microscope hack. Like it's very in its lineage. And so Street Magic is like a big inspiration
Mm.
where this comes from. And microscope also on like this grand scope of a world. So Street Magic is like you're just building one city in a microscope-esque system, and microscope being like you're building a timeline of, and that timeline can span a bunch. I was like, I kind of want to make something that can be broad like microscope, but specific like Street Magic.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing when going through the quick start, and I think those are, it's almost exactly what I said to Hunter. I was like, this feels like microscope, but like way more focused. Like it's not, microscope is very broad and it's like do whatever you want. Here's how you set scenes and how you can narrow down from like epics to things, but it doesn't give you like a lot of focus. I feel like the prompts and the way that it's like walked through in this provides like a lot more focus to be able to, like, when you're done, you have this world. And I love at the end where you're like, if you like it, play it with another game now, just like run with it. But for those that haven't yet downloaded the free quick start that you can get at the links that will be down below before you go then back it on Backstart. How does the game play? Like, just walk us through like kind of a little bit of what you actually do for the game.
No, so like the game, I say it's a conversational world builder because it is truly, I wanted to make this a very streamlined, very like you're just chatting with people. So the game starts with, if you kind of see the spreads, like the entering the world is like you start by making a palette and some touchstones. And the palette is just like a couple evocative words that get everybody kind of just thinking in abstracts about what they want this world to look like. And then touchstones are specifically non-fantasy pieces of media or things that you want to draw inspiration from. So it's like very like, I say Cowboy Bebop because I really like Cowboy Bebop, but I'm like, I want to talk about it. I want to bring in its soundtrack because I think that's very interesting. And then other people bring in other stuff. And they can get really weird and they can get really abstract or really specific. I know for a fact the next time I play a Land Owns Magic, I'm like, I really just want to be explicit and I want to say mechs. I want to be like, my touchstone is Gundam mechs and just see where that takes us, right? And then the rest of the game is just drawing cards, like playing cards on random prompt tables. And they'll either give you kind of like prompts or like fragments of sentences that you can then kind of expand on your own. Like a legend gives you like, a legend is told of a contemplative scholar. Their tales tell of unifying liberation, right? Like these are just like vague but evocative. Or they're specifically like prompt questions and then you answer them and then you go around. So it's just you go around, you draw cards, you see what they tell you, answer them, and then you just kind of start chatting about it. Like that's the whole point is you just kind of start having this little conversation of like, oh, well, here's the question I answer. But then somebody else at the table will be like, oh, I have an idea for that. Or do you want to take a pitch? Or even just being like, I really like what you said there. My question, I'm going to just pull off from that and be like, I like what you established. Let me kind of come back to it. And actually like talking about like the prior conversation we were having about like the player is so much a part of the game is what makes RPGs unique. Orlando's Magic is really, I think, like a real honing in on that is the thing I love about this game is that eventually like people kind of forget that they need to draw another card or like one prompt spurs like a 10-minute 15-minute discussion that has completely dwarfed the scope of what that singular question was about. And they're just kind of going off and then at some point somebody will be like, oh, like, should I draw my next card? And they're like, yeah, oh, we have to finish this table. And like, that's kind of why, and it's a type of game I really like, especially when it comes to world building games. I like I don't see a lot of world building games all the time, or just games in general that have no role play, so I never need to go
Yeah.
into a mode where I have to like embody a character. But still are like exciting to get the pieces going. Even Microscope still has like scenes. And I really like I love Microscope, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with the role playing or the scenes of it. It's just always the part that like pulls me out because now I'm like, oh, I have to like embody something. I have to like be a person when I've just really enjoyed the broad kind of what ifs and like, oh, I have an idea for that and things. So yeah, that's kind of like how it plays, is you just kind of go through it question by question, talking and talking. And then it ends with a journey in the land, kind of like what you mentioned also of like, I go, all right, you've like kind of made a world, and then you end by zooming in fully. And then it's not in the book right now, but it's going to be in the final, which is like you then all go around and essentially make a character. You don't like have to role play as them, but you go, what is like a thing about this world that you would like to explore in the form of a character? So it's like, oh, we're with a caravan, and I remember us talking about like, merchants that ride giant beetles. I want to be a beetle rider. Like that's a guy who I think is so cool in this world. And somebody else would be like, oh, I want to be like, a spell slinging guard who can rip Earth apart. And you're like, yeah, and then
Sounds sick.
cool, like go ahead. And then it's like an open-ended, like take this world somewhere else. Actually explore those characters in a different system, or just leave it be. Let it go.
It's really interesting. I like it's funny because like that's kind of the exact same part of about Microscope that I'm not the biggest fan of. Like I do like setting the epics and the history and like filling out the cards and making a timeline. But like you said, as soon as you're like, here's a scene, now you have to go play somebody. You're like, okay, well this is the whole thing. It's really interesting that I like that the idea is that you always stay kind of zoomed out when you're playing the game, and the building is the playing. It's not, you're not necessarily building this to then zoom in. It is the zoomed out thing is the game. Like that is the whole part of it. Like you can, if you want, then do more with it. But you're always kind of, one step back from that. And that's a really neat, it's neat because you can just build you can endless worlds, like the Humpback Sky filled endless as much as you want. And that's fantastic. My question was going to be like, why? But like you answered it as you went through it, because it sounds fucking awesome. Like, because like the world building is the fun part and stuff like that. So, the game is on Backercade as part of Pocketopia. Right? Pocketopia, first year for Pocketopia. How is that going on Backercade?
Pretty good, I would say. I think pretty good. It seems like there's some 60 some projects, and we've like 55 of them have been funded, if I
nice
have that right.
54 out of 66,
yeah, which is like I think pretty solid.
Yeah, definitely.
Overall, especially as like an event post, literally right after Zine Quest. I feel like that's also really good. So it's either touching a new audience, which I think is exciting for us to have like another event that's very RPG friendly, that isn't just, hey, here's like one single month for everyone to fund everything at once. And also it's on like, it's good to see Backerkit is also doing events that are like gaining its own traction and is willing to like pull a bunch of people into it. I think it's going pretty well. I think all things considered, I'm not like the best at metrics on like a grand scale, but like knowing this is, not to get weird about it, but like knowing that like Zine Quest every year is kind of getting harder and harder. It's nice to know that this is like this is a success rate that I think is exciting to see.
And you guys did you fund day one?
We funded day one.
Day one.
5 hours. We were very excited
awesome.
about that.
You're at over 13,500 on a $5,000 goal, so you're almost tripling up and still have like 10 days left, which is fantastic to see. I mean, like you said, Pocketopia is really interesting. Friend of the show, Marco, has a thing on Pocketopia, so I was talking to him a lot about it. So really interesting idea. Like you said, I was worried. Marco's doing Blackthorn. But
right.
yeah, spicy tuna. But my worry, I guess, and I think me and him were talking about it a little bit, was like, it's right after Zine Quest. Like, everyone's broke as fuck, because I know I spent way too much money on Zine, well, less than previous ones.
Yeah.
But it's great that, I mean, I like that BackerKit has a metrics here. It's raised over $700,000 just in Pocketopia. So it's really cool to see something, like you said, pretty successful, like off of Kickstarter, which anytime that you can not do something on Kickstarter is great. Like, is it possible not to? If you want to make money, that's just how it works. But it's really cool that BackerKit has become more and more and more viable, especially as other things like Crowdfunder and stuff kind of fell off. But anyway, the project is on BackerKit. Tell me about, when people go back this, what can they actually get as part of the project?
I'm so excited to tell you about that.
I think we're losing you just a tiny bit.
Because am I here?
You're kind of in stop motion.
Nope.
Yeah.
The internet is unstable. Hold on. Let me see.
We're tuning in, folks. I think we're.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. This is what editing is for. I think we're coming back in.
Am I back? Okay,
I think you're back enough. We'll make it work.
I think we're coming back. I don't know. Yeah, I can see that everything's a little fuzzy for me.
We're a podcast anyway, so don't worry about it.
The audio's
that's fine.
Up, so that's what matters most.
There we go.
The audio's back. Okay, good. So I'm very excited to tell you about what you get from this, because Elliot Davis, who's More Blueberries publishing it, made incredible games, The Time We Have, Rom-Com Drama Bomb, Project Echo. Like, Elliot's great. Always love shouting him out. But we both kind of had this whole thing where we were like, all right, simple book. Like, I was like, Elliot, I want to publish Land Once Magic. I'd love to do it with you. And he goes, cool, yeah. And I go, let's just do a small little thing. It'll just be a book. And we're not going to bloat it. And it doesn't need to get a lot. And I just want it to be simple. Like, I want books out in stores, and I want more physicals. And he goes, great, we'll do it. Just like, we both were like, yeah, but like, what if it's a pocket game? And we both and we're like, what if it's like open spine? Like, or we want it to be lay flat, because it's a game of like random tables, and that to me is like, you want to be able to put that book on the table, and it lays flat, and you don't need to worry about it. I love a lay flat, specifically for a game that you got to reference. And so we're like, okay, what if we do open spine? And then we're like, like that bumps our cost a little bit more. So we're like, oh, you get like a nice A6 open spine book. An A6 book is, I usually have one on me, but like, it's small. It's a more bag size than it is necessarily pocket, but like, you toss it in a bag, toss it in like a pocket somewhere, in a jacket pocket. It's great. Beautiful art. And then we were also like, ooh, we were looking at all of our favorite kind of board games, and we're like, you know what we love? We love a board game that comes in a bag. Yeah, there we go. And like, that fits in like, I guess to shout out World Champ Game Co. again, that fits in your World Champ little fanny sling. Really great.
There you go.
But we're like, oh, we love little board games that come in little drawstring bags. What if we have a drawstring bag? And then it just kind of kept getting like, we were like, we can't bloat it. We're not going to do it. But what about the bag? And we can't just have a single book in a bag. What about a notebook to record all your stuff in? And so if you go back the game, you can either get just the book, which again is going to be a beautiful A6, little pocket-sized word builder, or you can get the bag bundle, which has a little drawstring bag, a notebook that you can write all your worlds in, and then the game itself. And I will hand stamp every bag with the like logo of a Land Once Magic, because I like to make stamps. Actually, I love a little bit of carving and then stamping. So that'll be really nice. So it'll be personalized.
Yeah. Here's the thing. As far as the bloat of what a project could be, because trust me, I often will get all of the things, and I'm trying to not get all the things. Having just a book, a notebook, and then having them both in a bag is probably like the least bloat you could have done while still having like cool stuff. So I think you did a good job of keeping it reasonable.
I must say, Elliot in chat said, thankfully we talked each other out of a custom card deck, because we're like, well, it's we can't do like dice because it's a playing card based game. What if we do a deck of cards and we both would just have to be like, no, stop that, like calm down. And then like my running joke with Elliot every time, we're like, oh, what should we do for like a stretch goal, or like, we're doing pretty well funding, which is great. And I go, look, hear me out, metal coins. And there's no reason to have a coin in this game, but just for the bloat, just to be like, hey, we have metal coins. What about minis, custom minis to just raise everything up?
Well, meeples from a completely different factory, so then we have to like put multiple things together so we can like ship it out as like a whole bag.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
I love the idea of meeple, custom cut meeples that do nothing. This game requires none of it.
Yeah. They will hold the coin for you that you don't need for the game. And then the deck of cards that is 50 cents at CVS or Walgreens, but you can get them from us for a lot more. No, it's great. And I mean, and I know that it's extremely what's the best way to say it? It's cost effective. I mean, the early bird bundle is like $35. That's crazy. Like that's such a for a book with like a Coptic spine and then a notebook and then a bag that you're gonna hand stamp too. $35 is a crazy price. I don't know what. I mean, that's what I backed at. I don't know what the other tiers are after.
Yeah. We really like, and again, that kind of had to do with like we wanted to do something quick and small. So like I think our only other like big tier, in crowdfunding kind of terminology is like, your kind of big swing of a tier is just like Play With Me, which is a usual kind of classic one. So like for like $100, we'll schedule a time to play this game with me and Elliot. But even then we were like, that's kind of it. Like it's like no box, no alternate cover, like nothing, like even our deluxe edition isn't even a deluxe, it's just a bag, right? I don't know, I like it. A lot of it's I again, shout out to Elliot because he fucking knows business. I'm pretty sure like all of these, like we're not like, it is cheap, like it's stuff we figured out how to do this like pretty surprisingly cheap. It didn't take a lot. Like $40 for a bag and an extra notebook is like actually pretty easy and pretty doable. It's kind of nice. I was surprised. I thought this was going to be more expensive when we were kind of talking about it, and he was like, no, I think we can just do that.
No. Well, what's interesting too is like, I mean, I backed it immediately. I've obviously read the press kit. I've read this a million times. I don't think I ever noticed, even though I saw it a bunch, A6 lay flat, like the Coptic spine on A6. I have a lot of games. I have a lot of shit, right? And I have a ton of like lay flat, Coptic printed stuff, everything. I know that I don't have a like Coptic Stitch A6 book. That is a very interesting print and choice. Someone in the chat actually said, do you mind sharing who the printer was from that? Maybe we can send that to them after. But that's an interesting choice. First of all, like you said, lay flat is great. It's also going to be on the shelves better. I mean, I know a lot of people, you did the spiral bound on the notebook. I know there's a lot of people, I mean, that like spiral bounds don't fit great on shelves for selling them in stores and stuff like that. So that's why people don't do them as much, even though I think they're their superior version of tabletop role-playing games. But it's interesting. It's an interesting choice to do a lay flat A6. Have you got one yet? Like, have you seen a prototype?
So we have it. And I'm pretty sure I'm gonna just make one myself because I also want to see how it is, and it won't be as pretty and it won't be as good, but like I can get a vibe of it. Because bookbinding is a side hobby of mine.
Oh, same. Nice. Mine too. Yeah, I love a nice Coptic Stitch.
Oh.
Yeah.
Holy God! Yeah, here we go. Yeah, I know you were throwing on Coptic Stitch, and I was like, we know what's happening. Yeah, we're all here for it. And I like making Coptics. Actually, that's most of the little books I make. But what was I going to say? So we haven't seen it yet. The printing is our printer's Tiger printing. I'm pretty sure is the name of it. And Min Chao, who's the one who is the person behind it, was also like a little like, so this is a bit unorthodox. But and is like usually to get a nice open spine like Coptic is they need to be a little bigger than what, like, I mean, not even just in size, but like in thickness. Like we're like potentially 62 pages is as big as we'll get, and she's like, okay, we can do it. But it's been really nice. Like she's a very active printer. Like she talked to us a bunch. We actually, Elliot and I got to meet her at Breakout Con because she was at Toronto Comic Con, and we just happened to bump into her, and so we had a nice little chat about paperweight. Like that's how excited she just pulled out a bunch of paper, like book samples, and was like, what do you think about this paper? And like half of that question was, what do you think about that paper for your book? And I'm pretty sure the other half is, isn't this paper really cool? And I love like that energy, you know? But she seems to be like, we can do it and I'll make sure it works. And so like that's kind of where I'm like, I have full faith that this will work out because of our printer. She seems so she's like, I'll figure it out. I'll do it. Oh, Frontier Scum is it? Yeah, I was wondering if you're gonna pull that out.
I wanted to show because like I have a couple other. I have the bloody one, and then I have the Frolic Nightmares. It's all black, but like this is, my camera's gonna like not do it well. But I just want to make sure that people on the stream kind of get a little bit of example if you don't know what like the open spine is. I think this is one of the early ones that kind of did it, that kind of blew up. Phil Jensen put out a Merkborg one too that had an interesting one. But it literally is open spine, and you see the exposed stitching. They do still glue these a bunch. I know I don't glue the ones that I do, but I'm not mass producing them either. But again, I'm so excited. And we're obsessed with A6 here on the show too. It's a fantastic format for a book. Yeah. No, they're great.
I'm so happy actually.
Yeah. So it's gonna be cool to see all that. But yeah, it's crazy. So the tiers here: $10 for the digital tier, $20 for the physical, $30 for a signed edition, $40 now if you missed the early bird for the bundle that you talked about with the book, the notebook, and the bag, and then $100 that you said. Again, extremely cost effective, really affordable. I mean, $30. I was surprised where I was like, wait, you get a bag too and it's $35? It's crazy. Talking about like the value that you get from a project. And again, it's a VIDITYA VOLETI project, so it's going to be fire. Like we all know that. I'm very excited for it.
Thank you.
And had Elliot on the show as well too, and they're fantastic. So you two working together is really wonderful.
Also, we're gonna add this is just we'll add an add-on for getting, even if you got the bag bundle, you can get an add-on to get it signed as well. We just know that there was like some weird like bundly things, but I think we also have add-ons like if you want to get more games from Elliot's collection, or Space Between Stars, not Space Goblins is not an add-on. Never mind, I was about to say that. But yeah, you can also grab like a bunch of cool other games as well with your kit, your backer kit.
I didn't have all of Elliot's games already. I would throw them on there, but so we talked about this a little bit before the show. You're doing a really nice like press like run for this. For those that haven't or are curious about how the game is played, because we talked about how it is played but didn't actually get to play it. You've done a bunch of APs already and or they're coming out. I know I think posted this morning. The One Shot Pod posted I think a part 2 of one, but there's a couple of different ones. For those that haven't seen all of that, they're listed on the backer kit. But what are some of the other places that you've been on that people can hear kind of more information about this, or that you've done APs on?
So there's a few different places I've been on to listen to actual plays for this. The One Shot podcast. There's part 2 just came out today. So I think about a 3-parter, maybe a 4-part. I'm not actually sure. But that's me, Dylan Appelian, the host of the One Shot, 3-parter, and Jeff Stormer and Aaron Catanasayas, 2 of my favorite people in the whole wide world. They make, Jeff Stormer of Party of One, and also my mortal enemy. But then him and Aaron make a podcast called All My Fantasy Children, where they just kind of riff and make fantasy characters and places in a shared universe. And I basically made this game for them, is kind of the thing. So, because Land Once Magic is deeply inspired by that podcast and how that friendship and how they talk and build. So I would say, like, I really love how we did that. And if you want kind of a platonic ideal of what this game does, go listen to that. We also did Talk of the Table, or many-sided media in general, like with Elliot. I Talk of the Table, if you want to hear me talk about the game, and my first dungeon episode where we play it, and I love the world that we made there. Oh my god. Reckless a Talk is coming out tomorrow with Nathan, which was a lovely conversation that we had. And Yes Indeed with Thomas Manuel was, I think, a really great interview. Thomas is such a good interviewer and such a smart person that I was like, oh, Thomas, you're making me realize things about my game that I didn't even know it was about. So if you want to hear that, I think that's a really fun listen. Gosh, I really hope I don't miss anything. And then later this week, I mean, on actually later today, not to continue to promo real quick, but like later today,
Please do.
we have, I guess this is where it is. On our backer kit page, me and Nat, I've forgotten Nat's last name. Mesnard, Nat, who has another Pocketopia game called Assemblage, another world building game. We're just gonna kind of chat today. So if you want to hear more about Land Once Magic and also learn more about a really cool other world building RPG that's on Pocketopia right now, that'll be happening later today. And then on Wednesday, we're gonna do a stream with Who Am I Rolling? Or sorry, What Am I Rolling? Which is a stream for on the One Shot Network. So you'll hear about that later also. Cool. But yeah, we've been doing a lot. Oh my god.
You're making the rounds.
Oh, yeah. I'm exhausted.
Ellie's just marching you out there and just running you ragged there.
That's absolutely what he's doing.
There you go. Hey, it worked. You're almost triple funded. So, and with 10 days to go. So again, this project sounds great. Super excited for it. I think we kind of already talked about what's coming soon in the future for you, and that is the wonderful marriage between you and World Champ doing Bloodbeam Badlands. Anything else currently kind of float on the horizon, or is this and that kind of your primary focus?
Well, so there's the three major things for me. That's like front and center of my brain. This is what I care about right now. Is Land Once Magic is happening right now, and then Bloodbeam Badlands with World Champ. And then also it's been announced, but Space Between Stars, which is my space opera, GM-less space opera campaign world build, like / world building game, is being published by Possible Worlds. Tyler Crumrine's World Games. That's coming out. That's going to be published in 2026. So that's later on. But later this year, I'll release an updated quick start with a lot of the designs that I've been doing. That's a game I've been passively. I released that game 6 years ago as my college undergrad thesis. And then it's been slowly, I've been playing it and updating it. And that's coming out in 2026. And then to be honest, I kind of miss making some new stuff. So you'll probably see I have some little ideas that I want to make. I have another big idea that I want to make that I'm going to figure out.
You're going to make your D&D killer?
The Heartbreaker's coming.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, my heart.
I think D&D is doing a good job killing itself at this point. So...
I don't need to
excited
make a
for
D&D
Project
killer.
Sigil, you know, excited to see how that's working out, you know. But speaking of Bloodbeam Badlands, speaking of Space Between the Stars and everything, where can people find those currently? Because I know, I mean, like we said, we looked at that. Got to be like a year and a half ago, so there's still plenty that you can play with that now and with both. So, where can people find your stuff?
Yeah, my stuff can be found at vidityavoletti.itch.io. That's my main, like, that's where all my games live. I like to release games in early access forms and playable forms. So you're welcome to grab the games, play them, try them out. They're very playable and really good, even in the state, in my opinion. And then just get excited for when they properly release with layout and additional content. And then you can check me out also at Blue Sky at VIDITYA VOLETI. If you want to just know any updates on kind of like where my projects are, what else I'm making, various errant thoughts about games that I have.
There you go. We'll make sure that all of those links are down there. We'll make sure that the link to the backer kit is on there too. I know I put it over here. It's the alomrpg.world. I love when I'm so happy that some designers use like the little URL, so I don't have to put the entire thing across the screen. So that's great. So you definitely want to go back this, go grab everything from VIDITYA. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Again, we've been a fan of yours for a long time. I was so glad when Elliot reached out and was like, hey, do you want to talk to them? I was like, yes, I fucking do. I've wanted to forever. So it was wonderful to talk to you. Please come back on anytime you want. I'm really looking forward to A6 lay flat world building game that is Land Wants Magic.
I know.
Very excited for this.
We're Elliot and I are book freaks. I love that you two are also book freaks, like to that level. You know, I love that. No, also thank you so much for having me on. I'm a huge fan of y'all too, and truly, I can't express how much like that Bloodbeam Badlands review like really made me go, oh shit, like it filled me with rejuvenation. So I want to pass the thanks on to y'all as well. That I'm a big fan.
Thanks. I can't wait. And again, obviously, you know, we've said over and over again, this is an Out of Ass Stand podcast. So the fact that you're doing that with Adam is fantastic. Yeah. So that is us, though. Make sure you check out the backer kit page, and it's going to have links to all of the other interviews and APs that VIDITYA talked about today. And go back the project. And once again, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay, and then that is going to be us for today. So thank you everyone in chat for being here, and we will talk to you all later. Bye.
Bye.